I mean, I have learned stuff from my kids. Oh, 100%. Like how to be an adult. How to be a little bit more responsible. Like, oh crap, I lost one of them. Well, good day to you, fam. This is B.
And this is D.
Bringing you the sole opinions of two everyday Christians.
So, we are doing a EDC Reacts video today.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all like these more because it seems like we get a lot more views on these than we do our just podcast discussions, which is totally fine. Whatever is good for what everybody likes. But we're bringing you one.
And before we jump in, one thing I want to preface is that we have not watched this, so we're going to watch it all together. We thought it was a great topic, especially for what we've been talking about lately. So we are going to cut that out and punch me in the face. That's what we're going to do. But before we jump in, let's talk about the giveaways, dude.
All right. What are we doing?
We've got our Patreon, which is still growing. We're still figuring everything out. If you've been watching our episodes, I kind of jumped the gun on some links in the bio on some things. But no, if you feel the urge to jump into our Patreon, we're having a 25 Patreon member giveaway. It's going to be a custom bench-made knife in our color scheme. It's about $300 value on that. And then we've got our 500 subscriber giveaway for YouTube. And it's going to be a Streamlight rechargeable EDC everyday carry torch that is dependable as all get out.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah. All right, what are we going to be watching today? I think we decided on a Jubilee middle ground because these seem to be pretty interesting. I don't know how you all feel, but it's kind of cool to see the two sides of things. Do you regret not having kids? Parents versus child-free.
So we're going to hear opinions of parents versus opinions of people who I'm guessing don't believe in having children.
And never have had them, I assume?
I do. Well, we're going to jump into this thing.
Yeah.
Find out.
Do you want to start at the very, very beginning or start like at the first thing?
Is fine.
All right. Let's do whatever.
The framework for having children was marriage, and that's gone.
The framework only works if everybody actually lives that. And the truth is, that's not true.
Man, do I have to be quiet about it?
So, okay, let's just watch.
Parenting is the ultimate sign of maturity and responsibility.
I don't know.
I hesitated to come forward on this one because the term ultimately kind of has a lot of power to it. I think there are other ways
agree, Stephen.
that people show maturity, but when I think of what maturity is, I think that maturity is fundamentally selflessness, right? The thinking about others before yourself. And I do believe that one of the primary ways that a person can show concern for somebody else other than themselves is when they bring a child into the world.
You know what, and I totally agree with you. I think ultimate is not the word we want, but I think it is about
We got
maturity.
Susan.
And I think
Might
part of
have
maturity
had some kids
is
quite
caring
a
for
long
other
time
people.
ago. It's fine though.
And one of the things about having
Grandparents
kids that's
have
so
wisdom.
incredible
That's that gray hair
is
right there.
they have so much to teach us.
How many kids have you got?
I have 3.
You have 3 kids, and I assume, terrible thing to say. Are they all grown?
3 grown kids, my best friends.
I have 8 kids. My wife
your
and
kids
I
should
got
not be your
married
best
15 years
friends.
ago. We've had 8 kids
Let's just
together.
say that right off
And
the bat.
there's certainly a
Friends.
lot of room for personal growth and having a lot of children, because there's a lot of opportunities to care for somebody else. Again, like I said, more than I'm concerned for myself.
So just like a fast piece, as my kids are my friends, not always, because I don't always like them. They don't always like me. I mean, I think that's kind of just goes with family, right? But I don't know that it's the ultimate sign of showing maturity and responsibility, but I mean, you have to be pretty darn responsible if you're gonna have kids, because I mean, can't be like, oh no, I lost one, which I think I've done that before. Like at the zoo, I was like, oh no, I only have 2. Yeah,
And it happens.
It happens.
I don't know. I think obviously we don't really know the words as parents. We have a kindred relationship. We would do anything and everything for this person. So we kind of want to say, yeah, they're our best friends. But at the same time, I'm their parent. I'm there to help and lead and guide them. And one thing I've always taught my boys that I'm going to do as their father is, by the way, I have 4 boys. So one thing I'm going to do as their father is to try to cultivate something within them to be better than me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm not there to be top alpha dog. I am, but I'm not there to portray that and be like, oh, you're never going to be anything compared to your dad. And that's not true. I want them to be much better, and I want them to obviously I want to give as much wisdom as possible. So friendships kind of goes beyond that. I mean, my best friend is my wife. And then I've got this guy beside me. I'd consider him my best friend. But other than that, my kids aren't my friends.
Aw.
I mean, they're don't wait. Don't make me feel bad.
Well, I'm not trying to make no. Well, because
they are though. I love to do everything with them: fishing, hunting, golfing, whatever it is. I love to do it with them. Like they are my kindred. They're a piece of me.
Yeah.
So I'm not there to be their buddy though.
No, and I can say it firsthand that they look up to you. They like not idolize you, but pretty close. They love doing it all, going fishing with him, going shooting, going hunting. They look forward to when they can do that, when they're old enough to do that. So they love you pretty unconditionally. I don't know about the oldest one. He likes to they like to beat each other up.
He's a wild card.
Yeah, no, of course he loves you. Yeah, my kids, they're okay. That's all I got on that one.
It does help you though. It does help you. I'll tell you that much.
Being less selfish, like he was talking about. Steven was talking about. Yeah.
Well, and getting older. You know, I'm in my late 30s now, and having a 16-year-old in jiu-jitsu, who is like, okay, this kid's actually almost as strong as me.
He's tough.
What is happening?
Yeah.
And so like you have to kind of you have to start doing some work on yourself to just keep up with these kids.
Yeah. Yeah, because at some point, but we should probably watch it, because that wasn't even the question. But like it, at some point, like you can no longer make your kids do things that you want them to do. You can only influence them and kind of push them and guide them a certain direction, and hope that they do the right thing, even when they're in their teens. Like you can kind of force them, but it really doesn't work. Like you can ground them and discipline them however you discipline them, and they can be like, okay, cool. When you're not looking, I'm gonna go do what I want. And then you rinse and repeat, So anyway, that had nothing to do with the question. There you go. Sorry.
Bunny trails.
Right. We will have plenty of those.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
And now it gets fun.
If you bring children in the world just to bring children in the world and not think about the consequences, that you have to take care of this human being for more than 18 years. It's an entire lifetime, and your entire lifetime, the rest of your lifetime.
Stop.
So a lot of people,
I feel like he's either educated or jaded.
Or maybe both.
Man, that almost sounds like a message title.
Ooh, write that one down.
Educated or jaded. But no, he's kind of just came off as like if you're going to raise children, do it, do it responsibly. It's like, well, okay. Yeah. Like sometimes, like when I had my first kid at 19, I was not a responsible adult at 19. I was still a child. Yeah. So like there are some things that's going to happen, but it's whether you run from it or you embrace it. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference.
And it's a very a very liberal democratic viewpoint, to be honest, to say like if you're going to have them, then you got to be prepared, which is true. I mean, he's not wrong in what he's saying, but
and it's good to be prepared.
Oh yeah, but it doesn't happen usually that way. I was 26 when I had my first one, and I still feel like I wasn't ready. So you're never gonna have enough money, never have enough time. Well, that's not 100% true, but usually you're not.
People just are not prepared for that. They're just 21-year-olds that don't know what they're doing, but they're having kids just because society or their family has told them that they should.
Now, do you think that is primarily accidental children? People who weren't planning on having.
How many parents tell their kids, go have kids?
Yeah. You're not married. You don't have, you still work at Albertsons or you're bagging groceries, but just go have kids.
Yeah. Or even if you have a, decent sales job or whatever the case.
I'm not sure. Yeah. What parents would just be like, hey, go have kids.
That was an uneducated answer. Sorry.
Having it? Or do you think that's true of everybody?
I think there are some people that, like the kids on the Maury show, you see them, they're like, I'm 14 and I'm going to have a baby. And it's like,
Pause.
They're being taught this.
This is coming. This is coming. Definitely. We don't have to look very far in his resume to know that he does not have a child.
Yeah.
This is coming from somebody who is so blind to that whole world.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Because they're bought baby dolls and all this kinds of stuff. So that's their aspiration, is to have children instead of becoming a human being, understanding who you are, and then, having children after that.
Just because you have children, it doesn't mean you're necessarily mature. I run into people all the time.
Come on, Samantha, preach
I'm
it.
26, so I run into people in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s who literally should have never had children.
100%.
All it takes is for somebody to be born, and depending on how they grow up, it's gonna make you or break you.
So how old were you when you had her, and did you feel like, what was that kind of turning point when you felt you were ready?
So I was 21 when I had her, and she was a really sweet surprise, but it was a surprise nonetheless. And I honestly, at the time, I wasn't ready to stop being selfish. I was like, oh my gosh, my youth, that's it.
At 26, hold on. At 30, were you ready to stop being selfish?
Dude, I never saw myself as a parent. So being a parent was like, okay, here we go. Let's figure this out. I didn't have siblings. I was an only child. So, and then, I didn't really have a lot of little cousins. Just for a short time in my life. So I wasn't raised around nieces, nephews, other kids.
Right.
So no, I was never ready to stop being selfish. Though when it happened and I had my oldest, it's like, all right, this is someone that didn't decide to come into the world. My wife and I decided, whether on purpose or on accident, to bring her into the world. I have to take care of her.
There was definitely a lot of waking up to do.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm just now barely starting to become a man that I feel like I can start being a father. Just because I'm a father doesn't mean I have been a father. Okay. So I feel like at this point in my life, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm starting to put away the childish things, right? And I'm starting to focus more on devoting time or just sitting down with them. Or, I have, when I was 19, my firstborn's 16. And I have him in what are those little blue chair thingies, like the little moldy.
What is it? Bumbos?
Yeah, Bumbo.
Yeah.
So they probably outlawed those, but
because of us.
I literally had Darius in a Bumbo. that was my babysitter. It's like he's sitting here. I know he physically can't get out of this thing. So I'm just going to I'm going to take the batteries out of this controller, hand him the controller and just sit there and play video games. That was my babysitter right there. So, man, yeah, there is a lot of growing up when you have a child, for sure.
See, I think you're too hard on yourself. Either that, or maybe because I don't want to think I was a bad parent either. I did the same thing. You just easily say, Bumbo, put them on the where you can see them on the coffee table or whatever, and yeah.
Oh, they moved. Okay, we're good. It's even like that with fishing, though. Like even today, because I've taught myself to fish, and fishing is one of my passions. I'm a bass fisherman. Any bass fisherman, make sure to subscribe. But I'm passionate about bass fishing, and I move. I go. This guy can attest.
Yeah, dude.
We got some stories for you guys, but I go and go, and if I have to stop and I'm like, why can't you cast this? I don't understand. What is your problem? You know, like I feel myself like, how stupid do you sound, right?
Yeah.
But there's still a selfish nature in all of us.
It's all, yeah. We all get there, but parenting does help to some degree. I guess we still don't have to, right? I've met people that they'll even say that their kids don't like them because they were a little bit too rambunctious. I like it. Love it.
EDC cup, by the way. Just FYI.
All right, well, I can keep talking. We should play.
Like I have to do a 180 now because I'm gonna raise a young girl.
Yeah.
And that was probably
you know,
some decent parenting too.
Yeah.
A lot
That taught her
to adjust to, but
True.
at the end of the day, nothing makes me happier than being a parent.
But, I just want to chime in. As someone who's older than most of the people here, what's fascinating is my generation,
You wouldn't say.
it kind of wasn't, there weren't that many options in terms of not having a kid. So, like, a lot of times it happened by accident. It was just assumed you would get married, and then it was
they
assumed
didn't
you
have
would have
the-
kids.
The contraception.
So I had my first one when I was like in my early 20s. And
Man, I
now
know.
that
All
I've
these people
grown
be-
kids, my message to them
Yikes.
was you need to wait till you're closer to 30, because when you're in your 20s, you don't even know the questions to ask in terms of a marriage, let alone having kids.
Yep.
Sure.
I think there are a lot of people that have been damaged from people believing that they should just have children. And then they were born, and sometimes born into poverty. Like I grew up in poverty.
Sister, I did
It
too.
wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Like
I don't wear
I'm not
that
gonna lie to you,
as
it
a
wasn't
badge of
fun.
honor.
Yeah,
A lot
appreciate
of
the
things
crowd,
happened
sis.
to me as a child. That wasn't fun. I didn't have an easy life. In order for me to break
Oh,
my own
my
generational
word.
curses,
Okay,
it was
pause.
best if I waited.
Educated or jaded?
Jaded.
And here's another one. Wearing the badge of honor of, I didn't grow up with any money. We grew up in a poor neighborhood. We grew up in a bad situation. Bro, I'll show you the houses that I lived in. One of them, I think, is actually a meth house right now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I took them.
Yeah. Well, and I can I can show you like the apartments I grew up in like the bad part of Bakersfield, California, and I didn't know it was a bad part. I mean, I was a kid. I was 5 to 11 years old. You know, that 6 years. I didn't know.
And it's all perspective. It's like the one that was just, I don't want to bring race into this, but
Venus.
no, the one before that.
I forget the Hispanic looking lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I didn't want to bring race into it.
I'm
but
sorry, the brown lady.
The Hispanic gal was saying along those same terms, but you can tell there's an upbringing that if you do this is your life now.
Yeah.
It's a part of your being. And these other ones are like, have probably heard, oh, this situation is awful. Our living situation is awful. These apartments are awful, and they blame everybody else. And so that brings that culture of no ownership. I'm actually reading that book by Jocko Willink right now.
Oh,
It's
nice.
Extreme Ownership. Yeah. And it's really, really good, by the way.
Cool.
But he really emphasizes, like, it doesn't matter if it even is everybody else's fault. You still could have done something in that situation to try to turn the tide.
Can I give an example?
Yes.
Just real quick.
No.
I doubt he's going to listen to this, but I have a friend that he was a dentist, doctor, a DDS, doctor of dental surgery, and very successful young man, a little older than myself. And he said at one point he I guess mixed up with the wrong crowd, and he kind of knew that. And he got a phone call one day, after hours. Hey, I got a friend that he's got an abscessed tooth or something. So they went to his house and he looked at it and he did something on it. Well, like within that week or next week, he came home from work and his house was cleaned out. Like he could see that somebody opened his gate to the back door, pulled a truck into the back of the house, opened the back door and just started taking everything. Now, some of those details may be a little bit fuzzy, but he just said that he was basically wiped out. And I was like, man, I'm so sorry that happened to you. His response was, you know what? It's my own fault, because I knew that the people that I was starting to mix with weren't the greatest crowd. And unfortunately, I didn't think that they were going to come and case my house and find out how to get in and out, but that's what they did. I take responsibility for that. I was like, wow, that was the first time I ever really heard somebody do that, but that's how you get better, right? Admittance.
Yeah.
So,
And that was the most selfless thing I could possibly do, even if I wanted children, which I did.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if we get back to the definition of maturity, right? Because we can be mature if we're holding down a job, if we're being financially responsible, if we're emotionally intelligent, if we're self-aware, if we're kind to others. There's a big list that we can fall under as being mature. And I think that it gets a little complicated when people who don't have kids, I am happily child-free, are said to be irresponsible, because it just doesn't fit and it doesn't make sense. Because if you take that theory, someone who decides to have a child who is not ready for one, who's not emotionally ready for it, who's not financially ready, who is just has no idea what they're getting themselves into, then that's calling that person responsible, versus someone, let's say, who's in their 30s, has really thought.
Okay, so she's she's saying pretty much you need to be at this level, that level I was talking about earlier, fam, about being, I'm finally feel like I'm being somewhat of a father to my children. I'm late 30s. So
you're mid 30s.
You're late 30s in May, dude. Shut up. Passing that line. So there is this perception of I have to have everything ready. I have to have everything perfect to be able to have a child.
Yeah.
And my children have been the biggest blessing besides my wife on this earth that I could ever ask for.
Yeah.
Yet I wouldn't have known that if I would have, there's no way. Even if I waited till 30 to have a kid, I wouldn't have a kid.
Well, and that was just going to say, the longer that you wait, you're like, you know what? So this is going to sound bad, but the longer you wait, the more you realize I shouldn't have children.
Man, it's nice having all this money.
Right.
It's nice having this freedom. It's nice having nothing else to worry about.
But that and you realize just how expensive life is. So you're like, I'm really not going to ever be ready to have kids. I don't necessarily have a big enough house. I don't have a big enough vehicle. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough life insurance. You name it. You're never going to have enough.
Right.
Unless you have a business and you do really well. And there's people out there that do way better than you and I combined.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's not where we're at, but we would never have done it if we needed the stars to align.
Right. Yeah. And the like you said, the longer you wait, the more it's almost like the more selfish you get. It's not the more selfless you get because I figured out how to be a good human being. No, it's like you figure out how to be a better human being with raising others. But like I said, you can't run from it. As men, especially, don't run from it. You got to embrace it.
Mm-hmm. If that's what you want to do. It is a choice, right? Kids are a choice. If you don't want to have them because you really just, okay.
I'm talking about, I'm just going to say it. Can I be blunt?
Why not?
I'm talking about the scumbags that get a girl pregnant and you never, they disappear from the face of the earth. They move across country. Mm-hmm. They run from their issues instead of embracing being a father and being a husband and being locked down in that relationship.
Just being a man.
Yeah, that's 100%. If you're running from your issues, you're not a man. And you can, you know what? Put that on a short.
Okay.
If you want to put that on a short, roast me up and down, go ahead. but I'll fight you to the end until I die.
Yeah, I'll die on that hill too. Shall we get back in it?
Yeah, dude. Can't wait.
Oh man, I'm getting all fired up now.
This out, has looked at all their options and has made the decision that this isn't for them.
That's what happens as you get older.
The theory of one being more mature than another doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I like what you said because I truly feel like being responsible or being mature and having kids are two mutually exclusive aspects, right? Like
I just hit this thought because I know people, we personally know people that are married, don't have kids. And it's like I'm guilty of it. The people who have kids, it's like, oh, do you have kids? Because that's we can relate to that, right? Mm-hmm. You have kids, I have kids, so now we have something in common. Well, the folks that have been married for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, mm-hmm. and they don't have kids yet, it's like, well, why? What's going on? Like, why haven't you? And they know themselves, like, our schedule is way too crazy. Like everything, we're just not settled down yet. Like, you know, traveling musicians or anything like that. We're kind of like, well, why don't you have kids? It does, like, none of that matters. But at the same time, I agree with this side. Like, if people truly aren't ready to have a child, then don't do it because of peer pressure and mom and dad saying, why don't you have kids yet, or anything like that. I'm not saying that either. There is a level of maturity, if you can dice it down that way, is that level of maturity is like, if we had a kid, I wouldn't either have, you know, certain things I can give to that kid, like time, or because they're so far into either their schooling or their, you know, but at the same time, man, a lot of people that don't have kids should be having them because they're great people.
Absolutely.
I think you can be mature on both sides.
Right.
But definitely if you take a step back for those who choose not to have kids because, you know, they've done that self-reflection and they realize they're not there, and maybe they just simply don't want it. I think that also takes a lot of maturity.
That could be a sign of maturity.
Women are
I saw it.
down.
I saw it. I jumped
they don't
right
have
in front of
kids, and I think it takes maturity as a woman to be like, okay, maybe I don't need to adhere to these societal pressures.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes, as child-free people, we're told that
I
we
didn't
lack
watch this, I promise.
responsibility. Where in fact, can be quite the opposite. Because sometimes, for example, I have a mother with Alzheimer's that I care for. So some of us care for our elderly parents. Perhaps there's a partner that needs care. We're taking care of nieces and nephews. We're taking care of friends.
Situational
so there's
circumstances.
Actually so much responsibility in our lives already that we're choosing not to have kids because the plate is already full
That's
with
your
tons
choice.
of
That's fine.
responsibility. So the fact that people still think that there is a lack of responsibility just doesn't add up.
So you have both kind of this idea of waiting and this idea of people having kids too young. And I think that both of those are dangerous generalities, because just because a kid is young does not mean that they're not ready to have a child. You said you had your child. It was a surprise, but you do not feel like you were ill-equipped. You did not express that you were ill-equipped. Me and my wife totally intentionally had our first child pretty quickly after being married at 22. Right? We were ready. And so I agree that a person needs to be ready, but it's not like ready as 31 or ready as 43.
Oh, no.
A person can be ready at 21.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the question is, well, what are you waiting for?
And I do agree with that to a point, but at the same time, it's like some people are going to be ready more than others, for sure. Mm-hmm. But God equipped each one of us to be that.
Yeah.
So I believe that if you have we have a kid now, guess what? Then you need to gird up your loins and move forward and be the man that your wife needs to be. If she's not your wife, you better lock it down and get married at that point. That's
commitment.
To me, that's as good as a ring right there. If you're having a kid, lock it down, own it, and move forward.
You know, when you say that too, it's almost like it's a ring at that point. You're committed at that point to the child and to the other person, whether you like it or not. Legally, you're obligated. you will be a part of each other's life as a man and a woman when you have a child, whether you're married or whether you're not married. That you're just going to be a part of each other's lives from now on. So for one, make sure you like the person before you have children with them. And two, just like Danny said, man up, woman up.
And guess what? If you didn't like the person you decided to get pregnant, oh well.
There's nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah, you're the man of the relationship now, so just start being one.
Just do it.
Right, if I'm waiting for all of my ducks to be in a row so that I've got the right amount of money and I've got the right job and I've got my house in Beverly Hills, and you're never going to be ready. It's never going to happen.
Yeah. I think there's just to touch on what you just said. I think that's a common misconception. You know, like this idea that people are not having children or waiting to have children simply for financial reasons. Like in my case,
Really?
I was sexually assaulted as a child.
Oh, that's terrible.
I went through a lot of very traumatic experiences, the death of my father as a child. And I think me waiting to have children was literally so I don't pass that trauma on to a next generation. And also, like, as a Black woman, I just didn't want to be a baby mama. I don't want to be anyone's baby mama.
So you got to trust the trauma, sister. You got to take the trauma and move from that. There's a lot of people, I don't want to say who, but there's a lot of people that have been sexually mistreated when they were children.
And it's horrible.
And it's awful.
Yeah.
It is an awful thing. But there's also a lot of perception that happens with that as well, with raising their children around people that they can trust.
Yeah.
And it is a guard. You're now seeing a different perspective when you're raising your kids. You're like, nope, actually you're not going over there, or you're not doing that. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I went everywhere, dude. I spent tonight all the time with anybody almost. And it was like, it's my kids. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be no sleepovers like ever. So
yeah,
good luck, you know?
Yeah.
Baby mama, I don't want to be a baby mama. Yeah. So, and that's
fair.
That's a stigma that Black women not exclusively go through, but I feel like we are criticized heavily for it. Like single motherhood is not respected, especially for Black women.
You painted this.
That's the
like I said earlier. There is all men, and I want to say all, ALL in caps. All men have a tendency to, if they get caught or if they're in trouble, if they're in a situation they don't want to be in, they run. We all have that as humans, I think. But single parenthood isn't looked down upon because, oh, look at the stupid mistake she made. And it's just this, and it's around your environment.
Yeah.
If that's your environment, then try your hardest to get out of that environment, that negative space.
You know, and it can to a point, right? I mean,
I understand.
Yeah. I mean, it can to some degree, but it doesn't mean that it has to limit you. Doesn't mean that it has to stunt you at all in your maturity and your responsibility, and who you can become.
I want to say, okay, as a society, can we stop looking at the female? I'm saying this as a male. Because a lot of times, like you said, and like she said, it's this negative aspect on, oh, look at the single mom. But they say or don't even think about the dad. Like, where is he at? What about him? And it's 90% his fault that there's not a relationship there. So, again, gird up your loins, man.
Yeah, I mean, it could be whatever varying degree is his fault. Because I mean, there's some women are hard to live with.
There's situations for sure, but just like I said,
but now it's your responsibility.
Pregnancy is your responsibility just as much as it's hers.
You made the choice, and here's the product. You better take care of it, because that baby didn't ask to come into this world. And we don't just, in case anybody that's watching thinks about this. We are definitely a pro-life. We don't believe that there's an alternative to taking the baby. Abortion's not an option.
First term, second term, whatever term.
Yeah, adoption's a better option than just if you will, deleting the baby.
And you know what? People that want babies that can't physically have babies.
Yeah.
Adoption is a beautiful thing. I know a couple.
We got good friends
from my hometown,
Yeah.
and they are amazing parents.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Smiths. If you're not watching, you should be watching. Subscribe. But no, they're amazing parents, and I've seen such a level of maturity and the stuff that they have to deal with. I would never want to imagine, but man, they do it, and they are beautiful people.
And they've done it multiple times and gone through that pain, if you will, and the headaches multiple times. So yeah, shout out to them. They're awesome.
Picture as if the child was something that you were going to do by yourself. That was the expectation, is right. You have these people telling you just have your baby by yourself. Mm-hmm. Well, I would say you would never have a baby by yourself. And I don't mean that as a stigma against single moms, but I think a child is fundamentally a thing that two partners share together. And so if I was waiting on anything, I'd be waiting on that partnership whereby the two of us can support each other in this endeavor of having a child. Because a child is a massive responsibility for one person.
I think that we're misconstruing the word waiting with the word desire. Because for one, and I'm speaking for myself, I am not waiting to be ready. And I was never waiting to be ready. There was a lack of desire from day one. So if there's a lack of desire, you're just sorting through your feelings about what this means for you.
I had no desire to be married. And no desire to have children. This is not some thing that I carried with myself ever since my childhood, or I've been, writing in dream books or whatever. I really had no interest in a relationship with anybody. And then I met my wife. And it was from my relationship with my wife whereby I desired to have a long-term committed relationship with her. I desired to express that long-term committed relationship in an intimate way, and from that we had children. So, my encouragement that I give to people that I'm talking to who, don't have that desire are great, fantastic. Don't have that desire. When the time comes and the person's there, the desire will come too.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that. That's not the case with a lot of people. I'm going to be 50 years old soon, and I have zero regrets. And every year, I am more and more grateful for my choice. I spent 10 years trying to figure out if I wasn't going to have kids. But in hindsight, it wasn't that I didn't know. It was that I knew. But everybody around me was telling me that I was making the biggest mistake of my life, that I was being selfish, that I was a terrible person, that I only cared about myself. So it just became so confusing to me.
2 points.
I agree with you. I'm with you.
Dude, I have met childless, even childless married folk. I have met them, and they... compared to the life that a person, it almost makes us jealous of the time and the things that they get to do and they have and all this stuff. It's almost like, oh my word. And they're like, no, I can't make it. I can't make it to this, or I can't make it to that.
Oh, because of time. Because they're busy.
Yeah, because okay, you're busy, great, but like, what is what is that compared to our lives, which we have? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's a perspective on everything.
Yeah, we struggle to find time just to shoot the podcast once a week. It's hard. And I think it's fine. I think her position on I every year I'm more and more happy, which I think is kind of definitely forgive me for saying this. I feel like it's a kind of a liberal mindset, which is fine if that's her perspective. It doesn't make her selfish necessarily, because she probably takes care of other people, like she's talking about, maybe parents, maybe siblings, maybe other responsibilities. So I'm not going to say that she's selfish because she doesn't have kids. I don't think that's right. But I don't know. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did have a similar experience. I've lived Honey, I lived 1,000 lives. I was a dominatrix when I was younger. I was homeless. I needed money and just got into domination. When I say I lived, I've lived. And then I found my person, like I found my partner in life, and I got married, and then everything shifted a little bit for me. They brought something that I've never really felt before I met them, which is like that unconditional love, that that grounding aspect of like walking through life with someone.
I'm not sure what just happened.
I don't either. I don't want to question it either.
Could I be a mother?
Okay.
As
I
I've
don't even
grown
wanna go there.
and dated a lot of guys and had a lot of relationships since that divorce, I find that the most incredible unconditional love in my life is from my grown kids and their partners.
Bro, though, I like cereal.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there, but I was like, huh?
Honey, I lived 1,000 lives. I was a dominator. What's that? Teacher? Like, huh?
Teacher would be like, just don't ask. Just move on next.
Do not Google that either, bro.
Yeah, no, just like our pastor. Never mind. I don't think those words are allowed either.
Oh my.
Maybe that's a story for Patreon.
Yeah. So you guys, like all the people out here on the YouTube space, like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
I hope as we are growing, you are growing. We want to be an impact. We want to be real and as blunt as possible, but hoping that will give you some fuel later down the road.
Yes, and as we grow, we hope that you're also commenting to let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like. That will help us in the long run to provide better content so that we can grow, and Lord willing, you all are growing as well. But with that one, we want to go ahead and just end this episode. We'll try to do more, and we'll just say we love you, fam.
Love you. Don't forget about the mugs. We have the mugs. I don't know if you have that link yet.
No. It's coming.
But it will come. Everyday Christians. Love y'all. God bless.